Command Point is sponsored by Crossfire Games. Use code CommandPoint25 at checkout to get 5% off your next purchase. Link in the description. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Command Point. Today is May 13th, 2025, and Shane, we had a balanced data slate drop just recently, just this past week, in fact, and it's about time. It's about that time where we go ahead and take a look at all those changes and rank every team in Kill Team right now, which there are a lot of.
Yes,
There's a
there's so
lot.
many teams. And before we rotate, there's going to be two more on this list. We're almost going to have two full rows. How crazy.
That is crazy. And then how many are getting rotated out?
A lot. It's
Yeah,
like 14. I counted it last week.
that'll be interesting. I actually don't know how interesting it will be. There's some standbys, you know, or some season one, I guess, or
I think that there
year
are,
one of second edition teams that are still floating around that are holding their own. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the meta when they rotate out.
I think a lot of players will, I think most tournaments won't enforce it, but I think a lot of players will kind of self-enforce and
Mm-hmm.
just try to play newer teams. At least that's the vibe I get from our locals listening to them talk.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we haven't said we're going to ban the teams, everybody's like, yeah, I'm kind of getting ready to stop playing this after they rotate. So it's I don't know.
Yeah.
It's an interesting dynamic, I guess.
I mean, if you are running or going to a golden ticket event, I would definitely encourage, if it's not enforced, encourage just current rotation teams to be legal at golden
Hmm.
ticket events. I think it'd be silly to have a team that's been rotated out that is going to be ineligible to be played at Worlds. Uh, you know, potentially be played and potentially win a golden ticket event. I just think that's uh, absolutely ridiculous. I don't think I've heard anybody say that they were going to allow that, but that's just my opinion on the matter. For a locals or a weekly or monthly tournaments, that aren't golden ticket events, who cares? You
Yeah, I
know?
agree.
Yeah. Anyways, Shane, where do we want to get started on this tier list here?
Oh, God. That's a good question. There's a lot of
There,
choices.
yeah, you got a lot.
Well, let's get started with Felgor Ravagers.
Okay, okay.
They just got
One,
nerfed.
yep, one of your favorites.
Yeah, so they were. I believe we had the best tier before, and they got nerfed.
Yeah,
I still think they're quite good. I think
I
that
think
they
so too.
are. Yeah, I think that there are some sharks in the meta that hurt them pretty bad.
Hmm.
Namely, I'm thinking Angels of Death, Plague Marines, and the newly released Gormongers. I think are all pretty bad matchups for Felgor even before the nerfs. But I think a lot of what makes them strong hasn't changed really. They've just gotten some tone downs a little bit.
Yeah, it was mostly with, I think the wounds characteristic changed on an operative, and then uh, I forget what it was with the shaman.
The biggest, well, yeah, the shaman went from seek to seek light, but I think the
Hmm.
biggest change is ambush. You can no longer turn a fail into a hit. It's only hit into crit.
Okay.
So their consistency is a little bit hurt, but I
Hmm.
still think that after all that, they're probably just an S tier team.
Yeah,
And
it's not like Frenzy didn't get touched at all, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, that's the big thing with that team. So you said S tier. I still think they're
oh, I
up
think
there.
A now.
Oh, they're A now. Yeah.
I think they have a few pretty bad matchups.
A few natural predators.
Yeah,
What is it about the Angels of Death matchup specifically that makes that team a predator, in your opinion, for Felgor?
I think Angels of Death right now with Dueler is just naturally gonna stomp
Yeah.
melee teams
Hmm.
specifically.
Yeah. Rip Gormongers.
Especially melee teams with 4 attacks. I mean, even with 5 attacks is pretty rough, but with
Hmm.
with 4 attacks, it's still really hard to. With 4 attacks, it's like impossible. It feels like to kill them.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and let's choose Casterkin, Shane. I've
Oh yeah,
been
you've been playing them.
Yeah, I've been playing them. I don't know if I'm high on them, but I'm definitely like more excited to play them than I think at any point in the team's history. I've finally
Yeah,
gotten around to painting them, so um, arguments for like B tier plus for Casterkin. Um,
I think Casterkin is solid. So like
yeah,
we have them at like bottom of D, I think.
yeah, no,
Last
they're
tier list.
I think they're way above that, but
I mean I don't I think B tier, and this is early prediction, I guess, but I think B tier by the end of this is gonna look pretty crowded.
oh, probably. I mean, the meta is like
I'm
relatively well balanced, so we may have to thin it out, but
Yeah, I feel like the teams I'm picturing in B tier, I feel like Casterkin won't fit, but we can put them. I think they're at best a low B tier,
okay.
and we can put them there for now. And if it starts to look like, if it starts to stick out like a sore thumb, I guess we can
Mm-hmm.
return.
Yeah. So I guess one thing that I kind of wanted to do with this tier list, Shane, was kind of like establish like what I guess flavor of a meta are we in right now? We were just in an elf meta, right? That's kind of changed. Are we now in a more elite meta, or do you think that some of the anti-elite teams such as it, like not limited to by any means, Casterkin, are kind of the boogeymen of the meta now? Because that can kind of shape how we do this tier list almost.
I think it's more of an elite meta.
Okay.
There are a couple exception teams that we'll get to, but
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the natural predators like Corsairs got nerfed. Hand of the Archon got nerfed, who I
For
thought
like
had
no
decent
reason.
matchups. Yeah, Corsairs needed it, but Hand of the Archon was pretty random.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think that Casterkin are solid into elites, and I think that's what's making me put them in B tier right now.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's like I haven't personally tested it. Um, it still sounds kind of hard because it's basically like playing a horde in terms of how easy it is for them to kill you, but you have 10 guys.
Yeah, you
So,
have 10 guys, they can stack a bunch of I guess like keywords, like weapon keywords on your attacks. Um their melee got buffed a little bit, but that's not really going to make that much difference in the elite matchup. I think that's more for like your wider like 7 and 8 wound teams that you would be going into.
I think the big change for them against elites now after the data slate is that their piercing crits ploy is a lot easier for them to pull off
Yeah.
because um I believe they changed that ploy, but they also made it easier to get the severe from the skill at arms. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, there and then the I believe the ceaseless ploy is, do they buff that? I'm drawing a blank right now.
I'm not
Can't quite
sure. I
remember.
can't remember if they actually touched the ceaseless ploy. Um that's the one where it only works against an expended or an exhausted enemy operative, right?
No, no, no. That one is it's the bubble.
Oh yeah,
The
okay. Yeah, I
I'm
can't
not
remember.
familiar with the names of their
I
ploys, but
can't
yeah.
remember if they touched that or not because because the first time I played them this edition was after all of these changes. So I don't really have a frame of reference for pre-balanced data slate Casterkin.
Yeah, I mean overall I think they're a deeply positional team.
Mm-hmm.
They are like they really reward very good fundamentals, and I think that they did get quite a bit better.
Yeah.
I mean for now I think low B tier, but
Okay.
we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's move on, Shane, with a team of your choice.
Okay. Um let's go with I want to talk a little bit about Hearthkin salvagers because they caught a little nerf
Yeah.
there. Um, I think that Hearthkin salvagers is so. I mean, they were kind of not winning a lot. Like they won an event in the UK, and
Mm-hmm.
they were placing occasionally in North America. But it was at least in North America. This wasn't the case in the UK, to my understanding. But in North America, a lot of the Hearthkin players were just kind of like leaning really hard on the Alpha Strike, which got nerfed here,
Right.
um, along with the Writ of Claim, which was all kind of part of like synergizing with the Alpha Strike. Um, and I think now they're just sort of like underwhelming. Um, I was hoping that they would nerf the Alpha and give the team something else in like compensation,
Mm-hmm.
but instead they just nerfed the Alpha, which is weird because the team wasn't particularly leaning too hard. I mean, they weren't like winning too much. They were just like skewing against certain stuff.
Uh-huh.
Um, I see them in like the bottom third now. I would definitely say a C tier team.
Okay.
Um, there are some people in, that have had success with them not alpha striking, and I'd like to see more of that if possible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just personally feel like they're not really beating like aggro elites.
Yeah.
Um, they just don't threaten far enough outside of the jump pack.
Yeah.
I don't know. There may come like they do hit very hard with grudges and like stacking buffs, but like I don't know. There may come a time when the meta is maybe a little more favorable for them, but I think they really struggle into the melee stuff like Felgor and Gormongers. Um, so I don't know. I like them in C tier right now.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and choose da, 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 da. Let's do Phobos.
Phobos, yeah,
Yeah.
they're really
Uh
good.
yeah, they're really good. What
Um,
else is there to say?
they don't get nerfed. I feel like it's weird because they have been very good since the start, but they haven't
Yeah.
caught any changes. They're so popular.
Yeah, they are very popular. Have they been winning like any tournaments though, or have they just been like podiuming?
Yeah, they haven't really been getting wins, I guess.
Yeah. I feel
They
like they're kind of just like a mid-table menace, like a gatekeeper. Like if you don't know how to play against Phobos, like you're cooked. You're not gonna make it. Um,
Yeah, I think they had the tools to beat everything except for like certain elves and Felgors.
mhm.
Um,
So now that Felgors are worse and all those elf teams are worse, do you think that now is like gonna be the high watermark for Phobos?
I think that it's a pretty good time to play Phobos. I
Yeah.
do think they're really bad. I think, well, not really bad, but I think they don't really like Sanctifiers. Sanctifiers sounds really hard for them.
Okay.
Sanctifiers turn all their bolt guns into like las guns basically because they're damage reduction.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
and I
that
don't
does
know about
really suck.
yeah, I feel like they're well suited to play against Gormongers. They're fine into like Plague Marines. I
Mhm.
think they're like a high A tier in all
Aye, aye.
likelihood.
Okay. Neat. Your pick, Shane.
Yeah. Ooh, there is so many. Let's do man. I want to talk about Pathfinders
Okay, yeah. Interesting. Because on
because
paper they seem a little bit scary. Have you had the opportunity to play this matchup yet, or look into it a little bit deeper?
I did. So I went to the
Okay.
Torchlight Gaming tournament last week, this past weekend, I guess. Um, and I did finally get the chance to play against Pathfinders for the first time this edition, and it was the first time against the buffed Pathfinders, obviously. And I was playing Hierotek, and I did end up winning this game. It was against Voyan. Jarek, who's one of the better players out of Ontario, and he was like a diehard Pathfinder player last edition. So I was really excited to see this team
Okay.
post buff in the hands of a good player
Yeah.
because I truly didn't really know much about them, and so I did win this game. I think Hierotek is just like a good matchup into them. Um, I honestly I think that for some teams I can see Pathfinders feeling very very toxic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like the way that their grav inhib drone works. Are you familiar with the grav inhib drone, Ryan?
I am not.
So it's like a 6-inch bubble around it where it reduces charges, or it doesn't reduce charges, it reduces movements by 2 inch.
Okay.
But it doesn't work like if you start a move within 6 of it. It's like the old nanomine from Hierotek.
Okay.
You know how that would work, where like if you went inside of it mid
Right.
move, you'd lose the movement?
Yeah.
And it works like that, and it
Okay.
like affects dashes as well as charges and repositions.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a total relic of like old game design
Uh-huh.
that is somehow still exists
Mm-hmm.
on this team,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really really toxic. And it has an 8-inch move. It's like really difficult to charge.
Mm-hmm.
I personally I think it shouldn't work that way. Like there's nothing else in the game that works that way. Like Nanomine got changed last edition
Yeah, I
to
can
not be
see
that way.
how this drone would be pretty problematic.
And then also the drone controller, that's the other toxic part of this team.
Uh-huh.
Um, and Voyan really opened my eyes to what this guy could do,
Mm-hmm.
because he has an ability for 1 AP where he tells a drone to do a 1 AP action,
Okay.
and if it's a move, then they can't go more than 2 inches. And he can do this action twice. He can select the same drone twice if he wants to, or he can select two different drones.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if he the only restriction is that he can't tell them to do an action that he already told them to do. So
Okay.
it can be an action that they already did, or they can do this action again later. He just can't tell them to do it. So if he wants them to move twice, well, your first thought might be, oh, well, I can't double reposition. But you know what you can do is you can tell them to reposition 2 inches, and then you can tell them to dash 2 inches, and then you can activate that guy, and that drone moves 8 inches and shoots you. Um,
Okay.
so that feels really silly to me. Um,
Yeah.
it's just like the team itself is solid and it's good, and I think the stuff that like makes them viable and props them up is like just the worst, most toxic shit you've ever seen, and it I kind of hate it. In general, from like a power level standpoint, I think they're like B tier, like a high B
Okay.
tier probably.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a weird situation because this team doesn't have much time left as like a classified team.
Right.
Like I think they're really just getting like one more data slate before they're classified, and then I don't think we should expect. They've said they'll continue to balance the teams, but I don't think we should expect it going
Yeah.
forward after that
I
point.
it it doesn't make any sense to me in terms of just like resource allocation, whether that be like, time for like game designers, playtesters, money. It doesn't There's no incentive for Games Workshop to be continually balancing teams that have rotated out of the game. So
Yeah,
I'm not expecting them to stay on top of like balancing the teams that are presumably, if I were to guess, they would probably not even be making them in the kill team box packaging anymore. I'd imagine that they would just go into the main like 40K line packaging.
yeah, it's like remember how last edition they would occasionally in the early days make little changes to compendium, and then after like
Yes,
a little while they just
they just
stopped.
stopped. Yeah,
I think that's what it's
I
gonna
think
look
that's the
like. I
same
think
pattern. Yep.
yeah. But yeah, I mean I think this team is like pretty good, and like the balance, like the buffs were massive for them, and I
Oh
really
yeah.
felt it in my game. But it is like, and I've always said I feel like if you need to be a good team, you need to have some like unfair
You need to have some
like
kind of
crap.
you need to There's needs to be something on the team that allows you to cheat, basically.
Yeah,
That's a
so
very
like
strong word I'm
Pathfinders.
using, but you understand. Somehow breaks the rules of the game, does something that no other team can really do, you know. Um, but that, yeah,
Yeah,
that grav inhib drone is exactly what the stuff that I'm talking about.
yeah. So between that and then like a really good Alpha Strike, they might be A tier, but I just don't know yet. It's hard
Hmm.
to say. The one time I played them, it was like they did feel a little limp-fisted into Hierotek, but I've always thought Hierotek was pretty good into Pathfinders, like going
Hmm.
back forever. So I don't know if it was just a bad matchup, but
How do you think the marker lights feel?
really good.
Because that was the biggest thing that stuck out to me was the marker
Yeah,
light changes.
it felt good, and I love the new change where like you lose a marker light where when you move, not at the end of the turn. So
Hmm.
like there's like a little bit of gameplay there on both sides
A
of
little bit
like
of
when
interaction. Hmm.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, they're in a pretty good spot right now. I think you can definitely take them and win stuff.
Okay,
But yeah, I'd like to see somebody like push the team a
cool.
little more and see like Voyan's a really good player and he basically played me with like 48 hours of practice
Okay,
on the team.
yeah,
So and that game was very scary. So
neat. Um, all right, Shane. I think I'm gonna put you in a tough spot. I'm gonna choose Void Dancers, and I'm just gonna throw them into high B tier. I think.
IB is probably fine. Yeah, they're like they did catch a couple nerfs. The nerf in the data slate is like a non-nerf. It's like they nerfed something that was taken in like a 0% of games, so
Uh huh.
it like wasn't really a nerf. Um,
Okay.
but the 2-inch climb instead of 1-inch climb is a significant change from the
Hmm.
last errata. Um, yeah, I think B tier is fine. High B tier is probably going to be where they live out their days, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
Still good at killing elites.
Hmm.
Still fast. Just yeah. I'm gonna pick a new team now. We
Yeah.
don't we don't need to spend too much time on void dancers.
No.
I think let's go with I want to talk about a bad team. Let's talk about a bad team. Who's bad? Let's see here. Let me read these teams. Oh,
uh.
Imperial Navy Breachers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think last tier list we put them at C, and then like almost everything below them got buffed,
Hmm.
and they, despite underperforming hard, they got no change.
Yeah.
Um, I think they need, or maybe they did get like a small change, but like they need something a little more. They're not about to rotate out, so like they have a little more time.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Because they're
but
Gallo Dark, so
yeah,
they'll be in the game for at least another year after rotation,
yes.
not
So like
longer.
some of their ploys, they've now fixed them to like technically work, I think, on Volcus, but
Hmm.
it's like very underwhelming things and like I do think their damage reduction is pretty underrated, but it's still not quite enough. I think you need to be an aggressive team at some points in the game, like you need the
Yeah.
facilities to be an aggressive team, and they don't really have the kit for it outside of like very precise explosive moments.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think they're decent. Like, as for a D tier team, for like a bad team, I think they're okay, but it's like they are clearly worse than like 95% of the stuff.
Yeah.
So I think they just have to be in D tier for the time being.
Hmm. Okay. I want to talk about Nemesis Claw, Shane. Nemesis Claw, do you think they're still I guess, arguably the worst of the elite teams, not including Rekkas?
I don't think they're the worst of the elite teams. I actually think they're quite
Interesting.
good.
Okay.
I don't think they're the best elite team either, but like I don't really know exactly. I think all the elite teams are pretty close to each other.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to compare the two, I think Phobos is better.
Okay.
But not by much. And I think those two teams are like occupying a similar space in terms of being like very
They got tricks.
like yeah, they're tricksy elites.
Mm-hmm.
They're on the squishier side as far as elites go.
Yeah, they
Like
both
Nemesis
are,
Claws
yeah.
don't Yeah, Nemesis Claw doesn't have any healing or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
They have a couple operatives with some defensive tech, but outside of like in Midnight Cloud, there's nothing else there.
Yeah.
Um, the scariest thing for them is the way that they can manipulate the board a little bit with the Ventrilocar and the
Yes.
activation order with Vox Scream and
Yep.
the pass as well. I mean, little things like that. Not so much the operatives themselves, because I think the operatives themselves are where the team feels the weakest compared to other
Yeah.
elites.
I think their archetypes too are not that great, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, the archetypes are terrible.
Yeah, they're like infiltrate and seek.
Seek.
Ugh.
Yeah, really bad combo.
Ugh.
So I am pretty sure um that yeah, I would put them in A tier below Phobos.
Mm-hmm.
They're definitely like capable of making it to top table, but I do think they have more roadblocks than many of the other top teams.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's not a lot of built-in reliability on the team, not a lot of rerolls, and a lot of operatives that are just kind of like hoping they roll crits, and that doesn't feel great.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay.
my turn.
Yep, that's right.
Um, let's go ahead with ooh, let's talk about Scout Squad.
Okay.
The Scout Squad is like they did catch buffs not in this data slate, but in the last one before it. And I think there were some people that I thought that I know were like expecting scouts to be like to make a big jump, and they
Okay.
kind of just didn't. It just
Mm-hmm. Do
never happened.
you think it's just people not
Uh,
taking them, or?
no, I definitely know people that were taking them and trying them out,
Mm-hmm.
and the things that I heard were largely the same. It was that they just felt too honest and they felt too fair.
Yeah.
Like there's not anything cheap or lame, not lame, but like cheap or like toxic about the team.
Yeah. Nothing. There's no cheese there.
Yeah, and I think they are way too honest,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't. I think they need to be a little more tricksy. I know that some scout players I've talked to want another body, kind of like the end of last edition. I hope they don't go that route. I hope they find a way to make the team better in more interesting ways that makes them feel like a scout,
Yeah.
like fire team. Um,
There's a
but
lot of
yeah,
flavor there that you can explore.
yeah. I mean, I would put them in C tier for
Okay.
sure right now.
C tier. Okay.
Yeah,
Above salvagers.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, Shane, let's take a look at Warp Coven, the former, boogeymen of the kill team meta.
Yeah, I mean
They're still pretty good.
they've
I mean, I
caught
think they're
a
still
lot of
A tier.
nerfs. Yeah, I mean, I think that they might still be S tier.
Oh my God, don't say that.
I think,
Oh, don't
yeah,
say that.
so the thing that got nerfed last was Capricious Plan, which was
Yeah.
a super needed nerf.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was kind of very much like I don't know. I guess they it's more like last edition with the way the Capricious Plan works, but the makeup of the team of being like a very flexible, a very hard hitting team with because they're not an elite team. I really don't consider them an elite team at this point. The way that people run them typically is not six Marines. They're more of a mid range team
Okay.
um, with a few guys that can, counteract on conceal and like four three APL guys
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's just still very hard for some teams to overcome that. I mean, Fate itself as my weapon is still one of the most insane ploys in the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
Capricious Plan, even nerfed, is still good. It has a lot of use. So I don't know. I still see S tier when I look at this team.
All right.
I'm not sure. They're probably going to be like bottom of S tier because I think there's a couple others that stick out to me as better, but
All right.
still just like crazy flexible.
I'm very excited to see what those teams are.
All
So,
right, next up,
yeah.
let's do. Hmm. Let's talk about Gellerpox. I think Gellerpox is probably still D tier. I think that they have gotten some nice buffs, um, like quality of life buffs with the vermin counting as one equipment
Yeah.
piece now to get all four.
Yeah.
Um, their offensive output is a little bit better. I just feel like the Hulks being 5 inch movement is really rough in this meta. Like all the other melee, they're the only melee team, I think, like pretty much exclusively melee team that is 5 inch movement with very little shooting capability. Um,
Yeah.
I think it's really hard to navigate that. And with the way the new Fiendlo panes work, I've said this every tier list since the new edition, those Hulks are not as durable
No.
as they once were.
Oh my God,
Uh,
no.
so my gut says that this team is still in D tier. They're definitely better than they were,
Mm-hmm.
but there's just something I don't know how they're gonna do it with this team. Another one that's rotating out soon.
Yeah. I don't even think they touch it after this.
Yeah, maybe. They're just missing something, and I think something was missing from the initial remake,
Yeah.
and I don't know what it is, but they are just a little too slow and a little too easy for the more hard hitting teams to bring down.
Yeah. Let's talk about Shane, a new team. Let's talk about
Ooh.
Gormongers and why we think they're probably like high B, low A.
Yeah, I definitely think they're A. I think that the Gormongers are a team where like if if like two teams got nerfed, and I said this in the last podcast, if like two teams got nerfed, Gormongers would be S tier overnight. They'd be like the best team in the game. But I
Mm-hmm.
think that they're kind of in a similar boat as Felgor, where they've got a couple really scary matchups, but I think they have less scary matchups than Felgor, and I do think that like the skill expression for the team, like the ceiling is really high.
Yeah.
Um, I honestly I like them more than Phobos and Nemclaw. I think they're
Really?
right outside of yeah, I
Okay.
think they're
I,
right
c-
outside of
uh,
us.
I, c- I can see them playing well into both of those teams, I think.
Yeah,
Uh,
I like them. I think they're pretty good. I
okay.
think they're very good, and I want to play them, but I don't know. I just
There's one team in particular, Shane, that I know that is just a brick wall that the team cannot overcome right now.
yeah. What do we got next, Ryan? Or actually, that you picked them, so it's me.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, let's do. Oof.
You could segue into the team that I was referencing.
Were you talking about Angels?
I sure was.
Okay, so Angels, yeah, this is an interesting one because I have thoughts on this team.
Okay.
I genuinely think that they are like you're gonna be shocked at this, but this has been my revelation over the past couple weeks of
Oh,
like reflecting on this
geez.
team.
Okay.
I think that Angels is a hard gatekeeper
Yes,
that can't win a tournament.
I agree completely.
Like I actually think they're B tier, like
I think
high
they
B
can
tier.
podium. I think they can podium, but I don't think they can win.
Yeah, I see them as a high B because they are. It's like they exist to keep teams like Gormongers and Felgors and some other melee teams from winning. But I think outside of that, I don't think they have the tools to win at all. Um, and I don't know. I kind of hate their spot in the meta because I think that their chapter tactics are you take Dueler because it's way too good,
Yep.
and then everything else is really boring.
Yeah, you
Like some
you
of them
like
are
default
slightly
to Hardy, right?
yeah, you go to hardy or you can go aggressive, and some people like mobile, but I find them all so boring.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people agree on
Like
that.
everything outside of like what you mentioned is, and you said it before on a previous podcast recently, they're just useless basically because the other options are so good.
Yeah,
Um,
some of them are pretty
yeah.
useless.
So I mean, so Dueler should get nerfed a little bit, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I think they should get rid of crits double parrying two normals. Just remove that bullet and make
Yeah.
it so you can still parry crits with your normals, but
Yeah.
you're not like wiping out two successes on your opponent's side. Because
Yeah.
if your opponent has four hits, four attacks in melee, their best result, like realistic, unless they're getting like more than two crits,
Mhm.
their best result is just getting like half their dice wiped out by dueler.
Yeah.
And they've already got 14 wins, so it's just like really hard to deal with. But
Yeah.
then like you put them up against, you know, I think they lose to other elites. I think they lose to some of like the more sharky teams in the meta, like well, I mean, we haven't gotten to all of them, but I think they lose to some like all the elf teams. I think still do decently well into them.
Okay.
Um, so I would put them. I think they're better than Void Dancers,
Uh-huh.
but like I don't see them. I don't think they're an A tier.
Okay. You don't think so you think Phobos and Nemclaw are better than them?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think Angels are in A tier. I think they're in B tier.
Okay.
Yeah, I just don't see what they can do to win a big event.
Got you. All right.
Yeah.
I think let's talk about Achelons.
Oh
Just
yeah,
got buffed. Very cool
they
team.
did.
Got an extra operative. You're taking that sentry turret for free now. Um yeah, what do you think of them, Shane?
Yeah, I think B tier. Like I think we had them in C before. They went from being like a mid range to a semi horde.
Mhm.
So a lot of their problems before was all their power was front loaded into turns 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And on turn 1, it was really easy to avoid because nothing really would happen turn 1. So uh, they would get all of their power out on turn 2, and then uh, they're like out of tricks. They're like a worse version of Casterin after that.
Right.
And now with the changes to hot drop, you're getting that ploy more consistently outside of like with drop insertion. Um, and with the extra body, they've gone from mid range to a semi horde, which I think is going to help them play crit up a lot, and it's going to help them stall out and like delay the hits that they get on turn 2, which I think will help them snowball a little bit going forward. So I can see this team. I think they have like all the teams in B tier. I see like podium potential, not necessarily
Yeah.
favorites. And I think with the changes to Achelons, I think they have podium potential now.
Mhm.
So I really like where they are.
Yeah,
I think they're a
me
pretty
too.
cool team.
I like that they get to play the whole game now and not just turns
Yeah,
1 and 2.
yeah,
All right. Your choice, Shane.
yeah. Let's do. Uh, let's do Hunter Clade because I just want to throw them in D tier and kind of move on.
Nice.
They were a D tier last
Nice.
tier list,
Yeah.
one of the worst teams before the data slate. Then they got basically nothing.
Yep.
They did get a change in the data slate, but it was like meaningless. Their core faction ability still hurts them. Um, they are boring. I have nothing else to say. I just
Yep.
can't. I can't with this
Excited for
team.
that new AdMech team to come out.
Yeah, I know there's people are ripping on the servitor saying they look lame, but it's like, dude, look at what AdMac has right now.
Yeah, look.
This is just
Just
like,
look at AdMech. This is the
yeah,
kill team you're going to get. A bunch of lobotomized guys and gals, presumably,
yeah.
uh, that are probably going to be like bad at shooting and fighting, but they'll get, I look at that team and the models in it, and I'm like, this is kind of going to be like a weird mirror to like Hierotek, I think.
I hope so.
Because
I'd be happy about that.
like the two main dudes, and they're just calling the shots for everybody.
That's kind of what it looks like.
Everybody else is just gonna be like a battle droid, I think, just like a B1 terrible battle droid.
That makes me want to play the team. I can't wait till we get those rules.
Yeah,
Yeah, Hunter Clade stinks. I'm sorry. They suck on the board. They're kind of boring. Yeah. Sorry, AdMac fans.
yeah. Um, Let's talk about Rekkas.
Yeah.
Dude,
Uh,
do you think that the sheer violence that that team possesses is enough to carry them to podium potential?
I think it is
Pro-
technically maybe possible.
but a very slim chance.
Yeah, like if they're B tier, it's bottom of B tier,
I'm thinking C,
top of C. I just
top
think that
C,
they're
yeah.
too one-dimensional. I think they have major pups. I think they can get to podium by stomping mid tables if you're like a good
Yes.
player,
Yeah.
because I think that they are uh very hamstrung once you're across from a competitive player that kind of knows what they're doing
Mhm.
and is like capable of like consistently measuring threat ranges
Mhm.
and not forgetting to measure threat ranges.
What?
But they do hit so hard, and you
Yeah.
know they're a fun team, and I kind of want to play them more honestly, but
Yeah.
they're just so like just any team that is that victimized by a closed ITD door is just probably not a good team. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep. What if you go to a tournament and there's no ITD though?
I don't
Not
know
that
what
that
tournament
yeah, not that that
that
ever
is. Yeah,
happens, but
then you're in great shape, maybe. I guess. Yeah.
okay. Cool. All right, so your go, Shane.
Yeah. Um. Let's do. Oh God. We're not even halfway there.
I know there's
Let's.
like so many teams on here that I just honestly do not want to talk about. But yeah, go ahead.
Let's do Commandos.
Okay.
Um. Let's put. I think Commandos are bottom of C. I think that they
Bottom C,
are
okay.
kind of. Yeah, they're just like a bruiser type team.
Mhm.
With like some average shooting into non-elites, um, and a chassis that is hard to chew through if you're not an elite.
Uh-huh.
But this is kind of an elite meta,
Yeah.
and I think it's really bad for them right now. I think if it
Yeah.
wasn't such an elite heavy meta, they would, because I thought they were pretty good before the data slate when elves were a little more prevalent.
Mhm.
Um, but I struggle
Yeah, they
to
seemed
rate them.
interesting, yeah.
Yeah, at this
Mhm.
point, their whole thing is they can score infiltration really easily,
Mhm.
and they are chunky, but the teams with high damage output, I think, are just gonna like mow through them
Yeah,
at this point.
they'll just burst you down.
Yeah,
um let's talk about Brood Brothers. Brood
yeah, I think
Brothers,
Brood Brothers is good.
cool team. Cool team. Probably
I
B
think they're
tier.
A tier.
A tier, okay.
Yeah, I think they're the
Um
best horde, probably
yeah,
easily if
yeah,
they had
now that I think
this.
about it, absolutely. They are the best horde.
They are. I think they do. I think all hordes struggle into elites, but I do think that Brood Brothers are one of the better teams equipped for dealing with elites.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I think that the flexibility of the leaders I think is really good. I think all three leaders have juice.
You think they have play?
Yeah, and they have an alpha strike, which is pretty toxic. Um, and they've got really awesome ploys. So I think they're A tier.
Mhm.
Um, and I think they're a team with a lot of potential. I know in like Spain, people have been winning with Brood Brothers. So
Okay.
yeah, for sure, a really strong team.
Cool.
My turn.
Yeah.
Let's go talk about. Let's talk about Vespids. So, savvy viewers might have
Yes.
noticed there's no longer a V tier.
Yep.
The V tier is no more because Vespids have flown out of it
Yep.
into the mighty, mighty depths of D tier. So I think they're better than maybe the other teams, and I don't even know if they are, but
That's
they're
a
better than Haunterblade.
that is so disrespectful to this team. I think they're
They're,
maybe better than the other teams in D tier. All right, Shane.
I don't know.
I,
They're
I
just
think they I
still,
think they probably. I don't know. Navis Breachers might actually
yeah.
be better
I
than
mean,
this
they
team.
are still like not a real team in my eyes. They just hit harder. They're kind of on the Vespid, or I'm not the Vespid, the Rekka wavelength, but worse.
Mm-hmm.
Where like Rekkas don't really, Rekkas are not really a serious team in my eyes, but they do hit so hard that you can kind of carry yourself through.
Right.
And I think Vespids are like closer to that now than they were
Okay.
before,
Yeah.
but they still don't have like the functions
Yeah. Their action
to be a
economy is
viable,
just terrible.
yeah,
It's just terrible.
a really bad action economy. They just move shoot. Um, but they do hit really, really hard. And if you get the buffs going, the lethal 5 is really scary.
Yeah.
But they need more. Make that drone a comms, and then this is a real team.
Yep.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So
Um. What else do we got here? Oh, geez. Let's talk about Plague Marines, because, gosh, I hate this team, Shane.
hell yeah. I mean, I
God, I
think
hate
Plague
this
Marines.
team.
I think they're an S tier.
Yeah, they are.
Um,
Yeah, they are.
I think Plague Marines are the actual best elite team. I put them above Warp Coven
Okay.
in general. They just have a very, very good matchup spread. Um, I don't like there's at most of their matchups, it's like it's close to even, or they are heavily favored.
Yeah.
Like they're the nice thing about playing Plague Marines at a tournament is if you know what you're doing with them to some degree, um, it's like a minefield for the other players because
Yeah.
some teams just can't deal with it
Mm-hmm.
at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I played these guys for like a month straight, kind of maybe like 3 weeks straight, and I find them really boring to play, but they are very powerful. Um, I don't know what you would nerf about them. I think
They
of
caught a
all the
couple
ideas
nerfs,
I've
didn't they?
so the nerf they caught was like a weird nerf. They nerfed Cloud of Flies, which was not what was making the team good. Um, I guess it does hurt them into the teams where Cloud of Flies was good were teams that were pretty much hopeless against Plague Marines anyway. Like teams that couldn't ignore obscurity.
Okay.
Um, I don't know. I just feel like in general they have too few bad matchups. They have some. They definitely do have some, but like it just feels like the team just like walks up to the mid board, and if you can't punish them for initially walking up, then
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna sit there forever and they're just gonna grind you down.
Yeah.
And I think they're very well suited for this
Mm-hmm.
current meta. So
Yeah.
yeah.
To be fair, that playstyle you're describing, very lore accurate.
Oh yeah. They
Um,
feel like
which is
Plague Marines when you're
which
playing
is
them.
cool. Which is cool. Um, Shane, what's the thing where if I roll saves of 3 or higher, they count as a fail?
Not 3 or higher, it's just 3.
Oh
It's
yes.
if you're retaliating or rolling defense dice, for each 3 rolled before rerolls, they can pay a CP and make you just like fail and then take a little damage. Um, it is a genuinely, I've come to realize I think it's a good ploy into elites in the elite matchups.
Yeah,
Um,
because I mean, they all have 3
yeah,
up
you
saves.
rely on the threes, yeah. Uh, but like most of the time that ploy doesn't get used, but the times when it does get used, it's really powerful.
So I was thinking that it should just be completely replaced with something else, and there's two ends of the spectrum. One end of the spectrum is it is so devastating if that actually procs against an elite team once or twice in a game, like it's literally game ruining. And
Yeah.
the other end of the spectrum is the Plague Marine player cannot rely on it to proc
Yep.
during a game. So it's like, why is this even a part of the team? if it's
Yeah,
so
it's
swingy and there's so much variance to it, let's just replace it with something else.
yeah, there's nothing that the enemy can do about it, and there's nothing that the Plague Marine player can do to like it's never going to be a core part of your strategy, I don't
Yeah.
think. Like the most I've done is like in regards to this is like I might be more likely to take a shot against an elite because the upside of Curse of Rot being there, it might help me out a little bit.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's not a very interesting ploy. It's most of the time it doesn't come up at all, and when it does come up, it feels really stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's not. I think their rerolls can get nerfed, and I've seen some people say Contagion maybe should be a 2-inch bubble, not a 3-inch bubble. I don't know how much that would actually change, but yeah, I don't know. They're a tough cookie, I
Yeah.
think.
All right. Your go, Shane.
Yeah. Uh, Goodness. Let's knock out Starstriders. Elucidating Starstriders getting rotated soon. I played them at the Torchlight tournament this past weekend. The player was actually 3-0 on them, so and he ended up finishing like fourth or something.
Nice.
I don't think they're very good. I think that the first time I played against them this edition, I was like absolutely horrified because I didn't realize that all of their assets were heavy reposition. So I was constantly afraid of my opponent
Oh,
move
yeah.
move dashing and space lasering me, and I was like, "Holy crap! How do I beat this team?" And then I
Yeah.
reread their rules, and I was like, "Oh, that's a lot more reasonable." Um, but yeah, as it is with that, they're just sort of like a beefy mid-range team that
Okay.
counter punches really hard, but they don't really have good ways to get in and initiate the fight, and they don't really have ways to get double kills unless you're giving them blasts. So I th- and you pair that with the fact that they have like two melee operatives out of the 10,
Hmm.
and everything dies not that easy, but like semi easy. Like
Hmm.
once you punch through the DR, I think they're just a C tier team.
Yeah, I was gonna say what you're saying kind of reminds me of Commandos almost.
Yeah, they're
Uh,
probably. I think they're worse. Ooh, are they worse than
that's
Rekkas?
that's
Yeah, I think they're
Rekkas,
worse than
right?
Rekkas. Probably better than Scouts though.
Where did we put Commandos? Why am I not? Oh, they're all the way down here. Okay.
Yeah,
You said I'm sorry. You said
yeah. I like where they are. I like
okay.
that.
Okay. Shane, let's talk about Hand of the Archon.
Yeah, unnecessarily nerfed in my opinion. They're a very honest team. They're
They are a
fast and
very
they're
honest team.
yeah, they're just so killy, but they also died. They're just glass cannons,
Yes,
truly.
and that
Like some
is
people say that
what
void dancers
Eldari
are
should be.
yeah, some people say that void dancers are glass cannons, and I disagree. I think hand of the Archon because void dancers can theoretically just like spike some 4-ups on their invulns and
Yeah.
like hit a domino field and live when they shouldn't.
Yep.
But there's nothing that's making hand of the Archon extra durable. They just
No.
hit like trucks and they kill you, and if you kill them their counterplay is to kill you harder. There's no defensive tech.
It's
um
kind of like Rekka's in
yeah, but
terms
I think
of
hand of the Archon
how.
has they have the action economy though, at least.
Okay, yeah.
Like
What's
if you
the
need
archetypes on
com
this team?
it is recon and
Okay.
recon and seek, I think.
Probably Seek.
Yeah. And they have the capability to move dash shoot, so like they can hit you from far away.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's their thing is they can hit you. They need to be able to hit you because that's their only way of controlling the board state is just hit you as hard as they can,
Yeah.
and if you hit them they'll die and then they'll try to like get a double kill in response.
Mm-hmm.
And what just got nerfed is something to help with their offensive output. So they went from having ceaseless pretty much on command to balanced, which is way worse. So I think they're oh man, they might be top of C now.
Okay.
Like yeah, right above Rekka's, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, if they have recon, they have access to plant beacons. Does that, you know, tilt them up a
Yeah,
tier maybe?
I don't know. I don't even know because I found myself leaning on the ceaseless a lot, and they didn't feel
Yeah,
OP
true.
when I played them at all. So
Yes, yeah. All right, yeah, we'll keep them down and see.
I think they're the worst elf team now, personally.
Okay.
Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, I mean there are some other elf teams in here.
Let's talk about Corsairs, who
Okay.
also just caught nerfs.
Yep.
So I think Corsairs are still a pretty decent team. I think they definitely have podium potential.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I can put them in A tier anymore, although it's very close.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably high B tier. Like a good amount of the really unfair stuff got changed. Like the Justice Scratch is now a proper Justice Scratch. It doesn't work against crits. Um, the Kernite Hunter has a little more counterplay. He doesn't fight first if he's expended.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then on top of that, they did a bunch of like I think slight over corrections to the jump pack guy, the blink pack guy rather, the Shade Runner, where I think they could have just not let him jump through ITD walls and it would have been fine, but like he ate a lot of nerfs. Um, and I think without those nerfs, I would probably still have them at bottom of A, but I think with that, it would push them down a tier for me. Still capable of podiuming, but not a favorite in my eyes anymore.
Mm-hmm. All right. Um so top B.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. Let's discuss Wormblade, Shane.
Yeah, I think Wormblade's kind of decent, honestly. Like they, as far as they're kind of like Achelons, I think, but with maybe a little less lethality across the board. But
Yeah.
you know, I want to say that they're a B tier team. Honestly, they're just like not played. I used to think they were like kind of bad, but I think the actual reality of it is they're a decent team that just almost no one in the world plays. For kind of the same reasons that nobody plays Hunter Clade. It's kind of an expensive team to own. They're rotating. They're
Yeah.
compared to the teams that are coming out every 3 months now. They're kind of boring. Um, and a lot, if you really have a love for like Gene Stealer Cult, you can play Brood
Just play
Brothers.
Brood Brothers, man. That team is sick.
Yeah, and I think Brood Brothers is a better team. But I do think Wormblade is solid. Like um their ability to the out of activation movement they get in the strategy phase is kind of fantastic. Um, and some of the abilities on the agents let them threaten the board in really like asymmetric ways, which I think is really important.
Mm-hmm.
They do have a lot of very easy to kill models, and at the end of it, once everybody's dropped, they're like, they're basically 10 activation team. So
Right.
yeah, I mean, I would keep them middle of B tier pretty much,
All right.
and leave them there.
Over to
Uh,
you.
Yeah. Let's talk about Ratlings because
Rats.
Ratlings came out and I think everybody kind of unanimously agreed that they're pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we just kind of keep waiting and waiting and waiting and they're not really doing anything. And it turns out that playstyle that they have is like very hard to pull off.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, they just ate a nerf with
Yeah,
they can no
but
longer put their tripwares on the doors, which was actually like a really strong ability for them.
yeah, no other team in the game could do that, so
Yeah. So that was like one of their better features, and it's actually going to make placing like their obstacle course a little bit harder now.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, I think they're honestly maybe C tier, but like a high C,
C tier. Okay.
because we're just not seeing any results from them,
I mean,
and
yeah, yeah, I guess C tier.
everybody that plays them, I haven't personally played them, and everybody that really plays them has kind of said the same thing that they're very hard to pilot,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of the people that went to them have since jumped off and, kind of gone over to other teams. And I think after a while, you kind of have to like accept the fact that maybe Ratlings aren't as good as we thought they might be.
Okay.
They just looked a lot better at the time.
Mm-hmm. Um, let's go with Deathcore Krieg. Yeah, these guys, these C tier guys.
Yeah, Krieg is, I think they're B.
B.
Um, yeah, like a low B probably. I think better than Casterin. Probably not better than Pathfinders. Um, yeah, they're because like at their core, they're kind of a pun not intended, by the way, but that's kind of funny. At their core,
Oh
they
my God.
are um a very like efficient like shooty horde in terms of
Yeah.
when they are rolling their attack dice with their good guns,
Yeah.
they're typically hitting pretty hard.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they have a lot of bodies. They should play the crit up well. I think that they can play attack up decently. It's not their strongest suit,
Yeah,
but they
best one
can
for
they
them is
can.
probably security.
Yeah,
They have
it's
like
definitely
security seek
security.
or something.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
seek is really bad for them. All the seek
so
attack
bad.
ops like maybe confirm or I'm sorry, maybe storm objectives, but I don't think they're
Yeah,
very well suited for it.
no.
It's probably what holds them back the most, but they do hit really hard. And I don't foresee them getting any more changes. They just got a small melee buff, which isn't going to be super impactful, I don't think, at the end of the day.
No.
But yeah, they're
If
they're
they
they're
weren't
solid. I
all
think.
like 7 wounds, then maybe I can see the melee buff
Yeah,
being kind of important. But I mean, like 3 other teams also got their melee buffed, so it's like that would probably just balance out anyways.
yeah. I think they have some stuff. They're probably a little underrated still, but I think they have the potential to like do well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's just probably I don't see a lot of people putting the time into them at this point.
Yeah.
So
All right. Your go.
yes. Oh man. Ryan, let's talk about Hierotek Circle.
All right.
So I mean, I've been playing this team at tournaments again as
Yeah.
of the last
Yeah,
few
you
weeks.
mentioned that.
And I started playing them again because it was like, oh, you know what? I kind of miss playing them. I love Hierotek Circle, and the Chronomancer is the best one now, and he's the most fun.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, let's just play these guys for fun, and not try super hard to be sweaty
Yeah.
and win everything. And I have found that I think they actually are still good.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
just very different.
Okay. We need like a graph or something, like a chart, like a circular chart where there's 4 different stops, if you will. So on the chart, we are now in. Hey, actually, Hierotek are really good, and then right before that is, oh, Hierotek are real bad, and then Hierotek is something that comes up every single time with this team where, oh man, the internal balance is terrible, but they're pretty okay. Need a
Yeah.
graph like that.
So I mean, I've played 10 tournament games with them now in the past month, and first of all, I just want to say they absolutely wash elites. Like, just all the elites are just hopeless into higher tech if played properly.
Wow. Okay. That
Um,
is
I think they're,
that's a strong statement
yeah, I think they're one of the few teams that actually like truly crush elites, which is quite valuable in this
in this meta.
meta,
Yeah.
including Plague Marines. I think they just crush Plague Marines. It's probably the worst matchup for Plague Marines, to be honest. And the funny thing is, I don't necessarily think they have too many bad matchups at all. Um, so
Okay.
what happened with the last set of nerfs is they took the Psychomancer and they just said, "Hey, don't play him anymore."
Yep.
That guy don't ever play him again.
Yeah.
They said he's no longer a choice.
Yeah, they
So,
put him
okay,
in
we can't play.
the timeout obulette.
Yeah, like the permanent timeout. So the Psychomancer is just dead and gone forever. God rest his soul. But the Chrono is still there, and the time splinter teleporting shenanigans is just you feel like you're playing 4D chess. And I do think it takes a good pilot to make this team work because
Okay.
they're very weird and confusing.
Uh-huh.
But I think if they're played properly, they're I don't know. Every time I play this team and I win a game with them, like it feels like my opponent thinks they're broken. I'm not putting them S tier. No, I'm not putting them S
You're
tier.
not. You just said that they are the worst matchup for Plague Marines to face. You said that they don't have very bad matchups. So what's the argument for them not to be an S tier then?
Oh, this is that's the thing is I don't really have an argument.
Oh, so they're
It's
an
just
S tier.
well, they're not S tier, Ryan. They just beat everything and lose to nothing.
It's all right. So they're an S tier.
Oh, are we doing this? Are we putting Hierotek in S tier?
Are we doing this? I'm going off of what you're saying.
It does feel appropriate based on my experience playing the team the past month. Like I don't know. They feel kind of broken, but a lot of it hinges on the Alpha Strike
Okay.
or or at least the threat of the Alpha Strike. Because
Uh-huh.
I don't actually usually Alpha Strike unless it's elites
Yeah.
that I'm playing against. But if I'm playing in something that isn't elites, I still threaten it. It just usually doesn't happen. They don't let me do it. And then
Okay.
after that, it's just the pure maneuverability that is on a level that I think no other team has other
Mhm.
than one that we haven't talked about yet.
What
And
are
even
the
that, it's what's
Remind
that?
me what are the archetypes for Hierotek Circle?
The best ones, it's security and recon.
Dude, it's the team is checking all of the boxes, Shane. It's
I will
checking all the
say
boxes. Has
the
something that's
internal
super broken. Beats out
the
the rest
internal
of the meta.
balance
Has
is
the best archetypes.
yeah, I was gonna come in here and say why they should be low A tier, but the more we talk about it, I feel they might actually be S tier.
Jeez. Here we go again.
Oh God.
What were you saying about the internal balance of the team? That it's
Oh, yeah, it's awful.
yeah, I
The
mean,
Technomancer is not actually a serious. If it's just Technomancer, it's like a C tier team. If it's
uh-huh.
Psychomancer, it's a D tier team.
Yeah.
And so what you do is you take Chrono every game,
Yeah.
and you are super maneuverable. And I mean, the stuff that you can do with Chronomancer Hierotek, if you want to see your opponent lose their mind. I mean, I had a moment in the game against Voyant's Pathfinders, where my Chronomancer he used Time Splinter, which is the teleport, to pick up one of my guys within 6 and put him within 6 in another spot. And the spot where I put him within 6 was in control range of his grav inhibidrone. So I got around the
Oh,
2 inch.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I put him because you can put him in control range with the teleport. That's what a lot of people don't realize that.
That's
And then I
ridiculous.
commanded him to fight. And so the guy fought.
Uh-huh.
And then I can see him right there. He's on engage. So then I used Magnify to shoot from him into a different guy that guy could see.
Yeah.
And just that alone is just like crazy. And like at the Chimera GT at one point, I used my I was playing against Phobos, and my Phobos opponent double shot with his infiltrator and cursor, and then closed the ITD door, and then I time splintered my Despotek against the door, so that if it opened, he would be in control range of that guy that just closed the door, and then I commanded him to open the door, and then later my Apprentac from the other side of the board commanded the Despotek to fight the guy that he was now in control range with. And it's almost like if the higher tech player is like not missing stuff, they can kind of like do anything.
Yeah. That's what it sounds like.
So maybe they're S tier. I don't know.
Well,
I think they crush plagues. I do think they have a bad matchup for what it's worth into like Noviciates, which is what the one team I lost against.
I don't think that's
But yeah, I
I
mean,
don't.
I don't think Novitiates are a better
Yeah, if
team, of course.
Novitiates are
But
their worst matchup, then I feel like you're fine.
and Mandrakes is another bad matchup for them. But it's like
Okay.
weird teams that you don't ever see are like bad for them, but they're
Yeah,
good into all the
exactly.
stuff. Yeah, they're good into the stuff that shows up.
Okay.
S tier, I guess. Higher.
Neat.
Oh god,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Here we go. Ryan, what are we talking about now?
I want to talk about Blades of Cain.
Hmm.
Is the juice with this team worth the squeeze?
Yeah, I think that they're like the one elf team that has kind of been like unscathed,
Uh-huh.
and like the it feels like the elves have been like cold
Yeah. Hey,
a little bit.
lore once again, lore accurate.
And it's funny because for a second it looked like they were in big trouble because Sanctifiers came out, and before the Sanctifier nerf, the turn one pressure that they gave, I think like really just made it
Insane.
almost
Yeah.
nigh impossible for
Yeah.
Blades specifically.
Mhm.
But without the turn one pressure, I think Blades can play a more normal game into them, and I think Blades have play into elites. Um,
Okay.
I think they're a pretty good team. I think they're A tier,
Okay.
honestly. I think if you are a Blades believer right now, I think this is a great time to play a team.
Blades believer.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say, oh yeah, I would put them
Uh,
probably
uh,
up below Felgor, I guess, but above Brute Brothers, maybe. Yeah.
I don't know. I really like the Brood Brothers matchup into them.
Yeah, Brute Brothers probably beat them.
You just
I
have
guess you
so
could put
many
them behind.
models that you can just waste time with.
Yeah. Either way, I think the Blades is A tier, and I really like where they are right now.
All right, your
Uh,
go, Shane.
yeah. So, uh, let's do Blooded because Blooded is permanently B tier.
B
Sometimes they have
B
crept
is for
into low
blooded.
A. Yeah, B has been the Blooded tier for a long time. They do creep into A tier once in a while,
Hmm.
but they always find their way back home. They never get balanced changes because they're perfectly balanced.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
probably like above Deathcore, and then I just stop there.
Okay.
I think they maybe barely have. I don't really think they have podium potential, but I mean, we have so many teams in B, so I don't know.
Yeah. Um. Let's talk. Chaos Cult. They got a lot of bodies.
That's a good team.
Yeah. They're a good melee horde.
Uh, yeah, I mean, I think that I want to put them in A tier.
Okay.
Um, there's not a lot of people playing them, I think, but
Yeah.
at the Torchlight Golden Ticket event that I just went to,
Mm.
where I won with Hierotek, the second place, I went 4-0, and there was one other 4-0 at the tournament in second place, and that was Dave from Ontario, who was which does not. There's a lot of Daves in Ontario, but um, Dave Seafried was running Chaos Cult, and he went 4-0.
Okay.
Um, and I know they've been doing work over in the UK,
Hmm.
and just in general, I just think they're like kind of really crazy spooky. Like it's kind of like I don't know why you'd play Gellerpox right now when you could play Chaos Cult and not have like the gimped movement. Like you still move 6 inches, you can move 7 inches on your charge.
Hmm.
Yeah, the torments aren't as beefy as Hulks, but you have the flexibility to like generate more as the game goes on. Um, and the Dark Commune guys are still really helpful in their own right. Their biggest weakness is Tech Ops, I would say. Like their Seek and Destroy Infiltrate, which is just a devastating combo.
Yeah, that does.
Um,
That really does suck.
I was kind of expecting them to catch a nerf in the data slate, but I'm not super surprised they didn't. But I wouldn't have been surprised if they did. And I think they're pretty well positioned right now. I'd probably put them above Felgor. I do think they probably struggle into elites a little bit, if
Above
anything.
Felgor. Okay. Yeah, I can
Um,
see why they would struggle into elites.
yeah, they're just like a very good toolbox. And as far as a melee horde goes, great toolbox. They're kind of missing only tech ops and everything else. I think they
Yeah.
check a lot of boxes.
Okay. Um. I chose Chaos Cult, right? It's on to you.
Yeah, it's on me.
Okay.
Uh, let's get Noviciates out of the way really quick.
Yeah, get him out of here.
I think they're like, I think they're in B tier, honestly. A lot of
Okay.
people think they're bad now after the nerfs. They just are not broken anymore. Um, probably low B, probably like deathcore territory. Yeah, like around there. Um, I mean, genuinely, it's like all their offensive output. Like I thought they had really good offensive output when I was playing them at the start of the edition,
Mm-hmm.
and that hasn't really changed. Nothing is different about the way that like they hit the opponent and how effective they are at it. Um, they just got rid of like the extremely egregious broken healing damage reduction combo.
Yeah, that was the dumbest thing.
Like,
Oh my god,
yeah,
I hated that so much.
yeah, and they were an S tier team with that,
Yeah.
and then they gimped those two things, and I don't think that makes them a bad team. I think it just makes them a fair team, and people
Yes.
don't like playing fair teams. Um, so yeah, I think they're like a low B, and like they still definitely have gas, and if you play them well, I mean that was my one loss with Hierotek. I think they're actually quite good into Hierotek, but yeah, no, I like them right there.
All right. Let us talk about Legionnaires. Shane, how are people running Legionnaires mostly these days? Do you keep tabs on your Chaos Space Marine buddies?
Yeah, a little bit. I think they're very good. I think they're better than Nemesis Claw and Phobos. Well,
Okay.
Phobos is close, but definitely better than Nemesis Claw.
Okay.
Um, it's basically like not Nurgle. If I was playing them, I
Yeah.
would be running a lot of Zinch,
Okay.
but
For
I've
the
seen
shooting buffs.
the shooting buffs and the potential for 4 AP plays with the way Astartes works now, because you can get triple kills with with Zinch.
Whoa!
Um,
I didn't know that. That's
yeah,
cool.
because you can go 4 AP and charge fight, shoot, double shoot. The only restriction really is that you can't shoot twice and fight twice, which, I mean, if you're doing that, God bless. Uh, but like you can get triple kills very easily. Not easily, but it's not that hard
The
either if
potential's
it's like,
there. Okay.
yeah. Um again, they're not tricky at all, but they do have a really wide toolbox, and I think they have a lot of options in every game. So I still think they're quite good. Um
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I like them right where they are. And I think they're very viable and very strong. What do we got now? Um, Goodness.
We're getting down
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah. Let's do Mandrakes.
Yeah.
I think Mandrakes are C tier.
Oh no.
I think they're probably better than Hand, but it's like neck and neck
Okay.
because Mandrakes are. Here's my problem with them. They don't really have ways to kill elites very well, and
Yeah.
they're like honestly, it's the soul harvest tokens from the chooser of the flesh is the only way to get 3 AP. And I think they need to make it a little easier to get soul harvest tokens somehow. Um, because as it is right now, they just are really rough into hordes as well. So like they don't have the offensive output to kill elites,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't have the action economy to get double kills into teams that are wider than them.
Mm-hmm.
So they just sort of rely purely on like guile and like they're gonna max tac ops because they're really good at tac ops, and I think they're gonna struggle to like not lose on kill op and like not getting like bossed around on crit op too.
Mm-hmm.
They have some play with crit op, but again, it's like you're just two AP guys. Like you can teleport, but you know, unless they're leaving their back point totally open, you're not really gonna have an easy route to like dominate on crit op. So a lot of it is just trying to stay even while you rack up all your tech up points. And I don't think that's a very good strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, if you snowball, you do have crazy threat ranges and their single target, their capability to hit individual targets, like and like kind of play like an assassin role, is really good. but against beefier stuff, the damage just isn't there. So
Okay.
I think I like them in C tier.
Okay. Let's talk about the cops. Let's talk about the Exaction squad.
Yeah, I, I wanted to say for a while I thought they had like really good potential.
Uh-huh.
I don't think it's higher than low B or high C.
Okay.
Like honestly, they have like when you look at their toolbox, it is pretty wide, but even some of the cooler stuff has a lot of like situational like
Like
things added onto it.
limitations.
Yeah,
Yeah.
limitations. And I think the Exaction Squad players are going to know what I'm talking about. But some ploys are where you read them and then they seem awesome, and then you try to put them into practice and it's a little less linear than you might think.
Mm-hmm.
And they're definitely really good into some stuff and they can skew really hard against certain teams and be a major challenge, but I don't actually think they have very good like podium potential.
Okay.
So like I think you could put them at top of C, like maybe.
Top of C. Above Handed Mandrakes.
Yeah, I'd probably put them behind Ratlings, honestly.
Behind Ratlings. Okay.
They're just like at their very best, they're like a very annoying team to play against. And they
Okay.
they don't really have like any crazy explosive potential, which I think like you win a lot of games in Kill Team by having like big explosive moments that just swing.
Mm-hmm.
And Exaction doesn't really have that. They just are like a grindy team, sort
Mm-hmm.
of.
All right. Oh, it's over to you.
Yeah. Goodness. All right, let's do Kroot.
Yeah.
I had a Kroot month where I played this team for like a month straight, and they are so close to being good, but I don't know if they really are. I think they are so bad into elites that I don't think they're really actually viable. Um, and it's funny because like if you just took elites out of the game, then I think Kroot would be like one of the best teams, but they straight up can't beat elites in my eyes. And I tried. I was really grinding this team into elite specifically for like a week straight. And I mean, just the sheer force of just an elite player walking forward and like going on guard on ITD was just too much for me to deal with.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think they're in C, honestly.
Oh,
I
geez.
just
Okay.
I just you can't lose that hard to elites and
And
be in
and
B tier in
have
my
podium
eyes.
potential. Yeah.
Yeah, I just yeah, it's too hard. It's just way too hard. Like
Mm-hmm.
playing against Plague Marines or Angels of Death or Legionary, it's like a nightmare for
Okay.
crew. Um, they're great, and it's even worse. I mean, this shouldn't factor in, but the fact is, there are TOs who like won't play Extraction at their tournaments, and that's like Kroot's best mission. Like that sucks. Like that's the fact
Yeah.
that you have to worry about that too, and you're not even like an amazing team already. This team just needs something to help them offensively. Like if they can find a like the perfect balance to strike where whatever they buff isn't making them too good into non-elites, but is actually like the bump they need into elites. I don't know what that change would be.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they need. Whatever that is.
Okay.
If you give them that, they're a good team and they're fine and you can play them and hope to win. But as it is, the elites are just too much to overcome for what their damage output is.
Okay. Um, let's talk about the Sanctifiers, man. Brand new Sanctifiers.
Yeah, I think
Formerly S tier.
still S tier. I think they're the best
Okay.
team.
Best overall.
Uh, I would say so. I mean,
Okay.
they are definitely, and we kind of talked about this in the original Data Slate vid, but I think that the Sanctifier players are gonna have to dig a little deeper
Oh yeah, now that they
to
don't have
like
the
actually,
Alpha Strike turn one
yeah,
BS, yeah. They'll
they
have
have
to
to
play
like
the game.
drop. Yeah, they got to properly learn the team, but I think the tools of that team, even without the nonsense, is still really oppressive. Like just don't put yourself in a position where like you're going to lose initiative turn 2 and then like the game's blown wide open and you still have the maneuverability of lead the procession and the endless defensive layers of protection, and you're going to do fine. Um, and I think that that's like a recipe for an S tier team.
Okay.
I think their damage reduction is actually a little too good. At first, I thought it was fine, but I think any like mid range or semi horde team probably should not have damage reduction that reduces to 2.
Yeah.
Like imagine trying to play Phobos in this team, and you're just a team of 2-3 bolt guns.
Neat. I guess I
What is that?
will, I don't know, double fight with reavers or something. I don't. Even then, that's
Yeah,
just not what the team wants to do anyway. So
yeah. I mean, Sanctifiers have great melee.
yeah,
Um, their shooting isn't built in super good, but they have a lot of weapons that hit on twos with like the blaze effect. So it's like you're just gonna like eat a ton of chip damage. The melt is gonna come and hit you end of turn 2, and then the moments that you get to hit them, you have to worry about Justice Scratch. You have to worry about damage reduction. You have to worry about the Get Down, Mr. President. You have to worry about the Confessor like stopping your activation basically mid activation.
yeah.
Um, I think they're still too good, and I think it's not like Unga Bunga busted anymore, but it's still the power level I think is still way too high for
All
what this
right.
team is capable of.
All right. I left one of your favorites there for you, Shane.
Oh, my Jaegers?
Yeah,
Yeah, Jaegers we had them in D tier last time, and I think I said all I want is to buff the team's melee, and we got that.
that's right.
Plus, we got a little extra for the stalwart defense ploy, which is just great. So, I'm still like kind of experimenting with this team, but I'm very firmly convinced they're at least B tier now. So I'm comfortable with putting them there. There is a very like good play style. I think that where if you can strike the right balance between aggro and defensive play, and not push too hard, but not stay too far back. I think that they have the tools to set up and play really well into a lot of different teams, including elites. Even it's not always easy, but I think they absolutely can do it. Um, I don't know if like if they're like I don't know they might have A tier potential, but I haven't figured that out yet. They're definitely in B tier at least.
Mm-hmm.
Probably like yeah, I don't mind having them right there. I think they're close to being an A tier, so I think right where you have them is pretty much perfect.
All right.
I love them. They're beefy. It's like, I think they're much better than a lot of these other beefy mid-range teams like Starstriders or Commandos or something or
Yeah.
Scouts. I think they just have like the flex capability to hang pretty well
Mm-hmm.
now, and I'm really happy with where they sit.
All right. Um. All right. Last and certainly not least, we have Inquisitorial agents. Man,
Yeah,
I keep meaning to ask you to give me that team back so I can take him for a spin.
I
Because
mean, I
I
think
was
they're
so
pretty cool.
excited for that team when it came out, and I just never got around to painting them or playing them.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're still good. Um, they're probably like a B tier team now. I think that like the sheer force of elites is still really hard for them to deal with. It was hard for them to deal with before they got nerfed.
Uh huh.
Um, and now they're, post nerf, they're still one of the better hordes, I would say. Probably, I mean, I think Brood Brothers outperforms them, but other than that, I don't think there's another horde that's better. I
Mm-hmm.
would probably put them like probably above Jaegers and maybe I'd put them above Corsairs, honestly, like right
Okay,
at the
so
top of
so
B.
top of B. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a very interesting tier list. Um, so this is me purely coping. Because I want Casterkin to be a better team than where we have them placed. I want it. What is the? You said that obviously the team is obviously it's too honest of a team. I think having just security, they have security and seek and destroy for their archetypes. So I think that not having access to recon is a bit of a hamstring. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like the team has a lot of like unlocked potential now. So why do we have them below, novitiates, blooded, and deathcore?
I'm actually kind of on the opposite side of this. I'm wondering why we have them above some of these teams in C tier.
Wow. Okay.
I just don't know
All
why I
right.
would play, even with the buffs. I don't know why I'd play Casterin
For
over
me,
like.
I guess it's the elite matchup that like
But
pushes them
even
over.
I'm not even sure the elite matchup's like that good for them. Like it's okay. Like they have a Melta, sure. Um,
You have
Melta's
Melta,
good.
you have Plasma, you have Crack Grenade, you have
Yeah, but like Deathcore has all that plus more activations, and I don't know.
yeah.
It's
I
just
mean, I am purely coping. I'm admitting to it. I just don't know if there's a way to finagle some more juice out of this team that we're not accounting for. Because I just want them to be good.
I feel that. I want Rekkas to be good. I want Rekkas to be good so bad.
Yeah. In all
I don't know. I think
seriousness, is there anything about this tier list that we want to adjust before we lock it in? Looking at it now.
I mean, if you really want it, we can keep gassing beats here. Um, I I
Well, the
don't
thing is,
think
if we
any other.
don't, then we would have to bump Farstalker up. That way, B tier has more teams in it than C tier has teams in it. Otherwise, B and C will just be tied if we bump Casterkin down.
That's fair.
And do you think that Kroot is
Uh,
a B tier team?
Not really. Not
All right.
really.
So the way I'm seeing this list is no, that's too. I was gonna say teams S through B should all be teams that have podium potential, but I don't really think that would be true. I think that's far too many teams.
Yeah, I mean,
Do you think
honestly, the
that's
only team in B tier that I really don't think has podium potential is Kazirkin, but I
okay?
also don't think any of the teams in C tier have podium potential.
Okay, so maybe we should bump Casterkin down then.
Yeah, and then I'm fine with the way this looks, honestly. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, the only other thing I can think of, like, I don't think any of the teams in C tier deserve to be in D tier, so I don't want to bump anybody down either.
No, yeah, I agree with you there. These teams, so D tier is competitively non-viable.
Yes.
Probably even worse than that. They're just bad. Because
Yeah.
there's a difference
Yeah, I
between a
think
bad team and a competitively non-viable team. C tier will say tournaments non-viable if you are going to play in a tournament and you're serious about trying to podium or get a golden ticket. Any of these teams in this row you want to skip out on.
yeah.
B tier, you have a pretty decent shot. If you're a good player, you're a good pilot, and you know what you're doing. And then A and S are uh, surprising if those teams are there and they don't podium.
Yeah, like if you really, really want a golden ticket, I think you pick one of these teams in SNA that looks the coolest to you,
Mm-hmm.
and you just grind them out.
Okay. Good
That's
to
what I
know.
would suggest to somebody that's that's really wants a golden ticket that wants to go to Worlds.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's what I would do.
All right. Gosh, Angels are like not even top of B.
I don't think so.
That's so crazy to me. Um. Well, all right, guys. Yeah, that is the end of the tier list for May 2025. Thank you all so much for watching and tuning in and listening on all the podcasting apps that we're on. If you have not already subscribed, please do. Shane, we're at, last I checked, over 10,700 subscribers now. It feels like we just hit 10K yesterday. So
Yeah,
that's
I
pretty neat, closing in on 11.
and what's beautiful now, guys, is every Friday we're gonna try to have a video or a
Yeah,
podcast or
video or
something.
podcast, yeah, some form of content for you guys.
Long gone are the days where you have to wait 3 weeks
Like a month, yeah,
or a month
yeah.
for a
I don't
command point
think it
video.
hadn't been like a month for a while, but
Yeah, we
yeah.
know.
Anyways,
But every week.
guys, yeah. If you want to support us and get some access to a little bit of bonus content with like some TTS games that Shane's been playing, you can check out the Patreon. Also, go and check out the Discord. I think there's way over 5,000 people in our Discord
Yeah.
server, all talking about Kill Team. It's a great resource. It's a free resource as well, which is very nice to have if you want to discuss Kill Team strategy or playing some of the TTS tournaments that we run over there. But yeah, guys, thank you all for watching, and we hope to see you all again in the next one.